They find the body in the basement in the very house that she was raised in.
This is by far one of the scariest unsolved murders. Let's talk about it. This is Russell and Shirley Dermond. They were married for 64 years and went on to have 4 kids together. They were living in a nice house in a gated community on Lake Oconee in Putnam County, Georgia, and they were really enjoying their peaceful retired life. They were extremely loved by the community, but on May 6, 2014, their lives would tragically end. Russell and Shirley were last seen alive on May 1st running some errands in Eatonton, and they last spoke to their son later that same day on the phone. A few days later, on May 3rd, the couple was supposed to attend a party with their neighbors for the 2014 Kentucky Derby, but they never showed up. 3 more days would pass with no word from the Dermonds, and their neighbors became so worried that they went to their house to check on them. When they arrived, they found that the front door was unlocked, so they let themselves in. Everything inside the house seemed perfectly fine, but when the neighbor entered the garage, they found Russell's decapitated body lying in a pool of blood surrounded by towels. They obviously called 911 immediately because of the horrific scene, and when police arrived, they quickly realized that Shirley was missing. Police initially thought that Shirley had been kidnapped, so a massive search was launched. But sadly, 10 days later, Shirley's decomposed body was found floating in Lake Oconee by a couple of fishermen. She had initially been weighed down by 2 30-pound concrete blocks. According to the autopsy, Shirley died from 2 or 3 deep wounds to the head from a blunt object. Authorities initially believed that the murder stemmed from a robbery, but there were no signs of a break-in and nothing was taken from their home. Hundreds of tips and leads started pouring in, but to this day, the case remains unsolved. And the most horrifying part is that Russell's head has never been found. According to reports, gunshot residue was found on his collar, leading authorities to believe that he was decapitated after being shot in the head in order to stop police from finding the bullet. Over the years, people have speculated that the Dermonds' deaths were related to their oldest son, Mark. Mark was killed in Atlanta in 2000 during a drug dispute, but police strongly believe that there is no connection. What makes this case so confusing is that there's still so many unanswered questions. Police still don't know whether or not the killer entered through the front gate of the community or if they had access to the back of the house by boat, but they do believe that multiple people were involved. Police also believe that the towels surrounding Russell's decapitated body were placed there to stop his blood from seeping out underneath the garage door. And as far as the concrete blocks tied to Shirley's body, investigators said that a professional would know that that wouldn't work. So the question remains on who would do this and why. According to police, new DNA evidence and cell phone data was discovered last year that they are hoping will lead to the people responsible, but they don't know if it's enough DNA evidence to be run through CODIS or if it even belongs to the killer. At this point, it could still just belong to Russell and Shirley. Investigators are using new technology to analyze the recent cell phone data found that wasn't existent in 2014, so they remain hopeful. But it's now been 10 years, and whoever killed Russell and Shirley and took his head is still out there.
We're just trying to find out where she is at this point. I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I mean, the last time anyone heard from her was an email that she sent out, and no one's heard from her since.
What kind of person was she? I mean, what did you see her?
I mean, she's as nice as can be. I mean, very personable, very much a people person.
Do you know anybody any enemies she might have had, somebody that might want to hurt her?
No, we just don't know where she is.
What about in the parking lot area? I know they've been doing a lot of. I think that's where they have recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body?
Had you seen anything there? Had you seen anything there? I mean, we don't know if this is the same person. You know what I mean? Like, they took out a body there earlier. We don't know if it's the same person or not. So that's why we're trying to ask people if they know who lived there. Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
deep fried his head and then baked his ribs in the oven with barbecue sauce. On December 1st of 1991, 23-year-old fashion model Omaima Nelson drove to her friend Jose's house. She was clearly upset and asked him for a shocking favor. She needed help to get rid of her husband's body. Jose was taken aback and found it hard to believe what he was hearing. He tells her he doesn't want involved and asks her to leave his home. Jose decided to call police to report the strange conversation. This prompted authorities to search the home Omaima shared with her husband, Bill Nelson. What they found there was shocking and completely unexpected. The crime scene at their home was unlike anything authorities had ever seen before. They discovered that most of the furniture was stained with blood and human flesh. The entire house was just in complete disarray. Then this is when they see the pot on the stove. It looks like dinner's inside. It was chunks of Bill. However, what was found in the freezer was far more disturbing. They find Bill Nelson's head wrapped in aluminum foil, which turned out to have been deep fried. She deep fried his head. They found his hands nearby, just the hands. But listen to this. He had been killed on Thanksgiving. Then afterwards, in a twisted attempt at a meal, mixed parts of his cut off hips into the cranberry sauce they had had for Thanksgiving. And to make things worse, she took his ribs, baked them in the oven, and then ate them with barbecue sauce. Omaima said that her husband's ribs tasted like how she likes her ribs any other time. Very sweet. His torso was hanging in the shower. It had been carved, cut up, just like a butcher shop. Because Bill was killed on Thanksgiving, she had taken the leftover Thanksgiving food and mixed it with a lot of his body parts, like, peas, mashed potatoes, the stuff they had to kind of put them together to like remake the Thanksgiving meal all over again. I'm not 100% sure, it was weird. Due to the state the body was in, they could not immediately tell the cause of death, but they do figure it out during the autopsy. If you do not want to hear the graphic details of what happened to Bill Nelson, you are free to scroll. But if you want to stick around and hear what happened and how this all unraveled, let's get into it. When Omaima hit adulthood, like her early 20s, she was known for her striking good looks, which she used to her advantage, drawing them in with her beauty and confidence. Men would do anything she asked them to. However, Omaima had a hidden side. When Omaima would get these men right where she wanted them to, she would tie them up, tell them that this was going to be some type of sexual fantasy with bondage, right? She would then get a weapon, hold them hostage, and tell them to give her money. She would take whatever money they would give her, and then she would leave. This was a common trap that she used, and this was how 23-year-old Omaima made a living. Until October of 1991, when she meets 56-year-old Bill Nelson. Bill was an ex-Marine and former pilot. And she met him pretty much the same way she met all the other men that she had fooled in the past at bars. Bill immediately fell in love with her. Bill was old school. If he was going to be getting into a relationship, he wanted to be married. He didn't just want a fling or one-night stand if he was going to take the relationship serious. So 2 days after meeting Omaima, he proposed. And they got married less than a month later. Soon after their marriage, it was one late night, and Omaima wanted to introduce something new to Bill, involving bondage. And he was willing to try it. She tied him up, and while in the past, her usual steps would be tell a man, hey, let's try bondage in like a sexual way. She would hold them hostage with like a weapon and rob them and then run off. Instead of doing that like she usually did, she began to beat him in the head with an iron. And then for whatever reason, went and got a pair of scissors and stabbed him in the chest and all over the head. She claimed that Bill tried to sexually her that night, but investigators believe that she just made this up in order to get out of what she had done. Investigators spoke with neighbors to see if they had heard anything because sure enough they had to have, right? The neighbors under Bill's apartment claimed that the entire Thanksgiving weekend they heard Bill's garbage disposal going like the entire time, like it was working hard to grind up something. Bill's body was cut to such precision that the coroner was concerned and thought that Omaima might have done this before. Investigators described the cuts on Bill's body with, in their words, professional. Even crazier part was that 180 pounds of Bill's body was missing. Like, my lord, this girl was getting to work. She said that she didn't kill her husband, and then she said that something told her to. She said that she had demons in her brain. She would speak very baby-like, and she would often just pace around the room and just stare off into space, and just sounded almost like she sounded like a baby, like a child, during like every interrogation that she had. But they want to know, like, who is Omaima? Where did she come from? Like, who is this girl? They find out that Omaima grew up in a impoverished farming town in Egypt. They dig a little bit more on Omaima's history and found out that she was a child to 15 other siblings. She grew up with a very abusive father in the household who would abuse her physically and would sexually abuse her. So he was, doing sexual things to her like her entire childhood, all the way up until I guess she left home. That's really all she knew until she came to America. And she also became a model. So, I don't really know much else on Omaima. When I found out that she baked his ribs in the oven and then had the audacity to add barbecue sauce, girl, what the fuck? She has tried to get parole twice, and then actually next year in 2016, girl, it is not 2016. In 2026, she is eligible. I think she's going to try to get parole again. Like, y'all better not let her out. I will be concerned. Okay, that was it. That was today's case. I will get another one out for you guys soon. I love you guys. Bye.
You may have seen Megan is Missing, but you may not know the real life story behind it. This girl disappeared, and then a few months later, her friend disappeared. And it's just as upsetting, so viewer discretion advised. Ashley Pond was a popular 12-year-old girl who left to walk to the bus stop on January 9th, 2002. But that evening, when she didn't return home, her mom realized that she'd never even gotten to school that day. People weren't sure if Ashley's disappearance was related to foul play or if she'd run away, because a few months earlier, she'd accused her friend's dad of trying to touch her at a sleepover. And because people suck, she was basically called a drama queen and not taken seriously. Her best friend on the dance team, Miranda Gaddis, got heavily involved in the search. And their dance team even organized fundraisers. But on March 8th of that same year, Miranda then went missing while walking to the bus stop. And this was the same bus stop, so people quickly realized that there was a predator among them and he probably lived in the same neighborhood. And the house nearest to the bus stop was owned by Ward Weaver. His daughter went to school with the girls, and remember when I said Ashley was the subject of gossip? Well, Ward Weaver was the man she accused. And after the disappearance, this man dug a hole in his yard and covered it with concrete. But he was so confident that he even invited the media into his house to see that the girls weren't there. This neighborhood nice guy was exposed as a predator on August 13th when his son's girlfriend called 911. She'd been at their house when Ward Weaver attacked her, and luckily she escaped and called 911. But Miranda and Ashley were still missing. While he was in jail for the attack on his son's girlfriend, the landlord came to visit his property. When the landlord looked up, he saw 5 fly strips completely covered with flies. And knowing that there were 2 missing girls in the neighborhood, the landlord realized he just found them. This is a long story, and the rest of the info will be in part 2.